This is the Chicago Vintage Show, and we're coming to you from the beautiful out of space in Berwyn, Illinois, music suburb, USA. And you got that right. We have an extra special guest with us who's been in the studio hanging out with us. Please say hello to our good friend from Los Angeles, California. She's a well-known rockabilly DJ, Sweet Sue. Thank you for being here with us today. She brightens up a room wherever she goes. And speaking of brightening up a room, my guest on the program right now, not only has she brightened up every room she's ever walked into, she has brightened up the rockabilly scene in the city of Chicago in ways far too numerous to mention. I still get a little nervous when I'm talking to her. Would you please welcome to the program, Gabrielle Sutton. It's a pleasure. Right, it's a pleasure. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Wow, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Eddie Partita is the guy who's put this whole thing together, and I think he's done a pretty good job.
Indeed.
You and I have known each other personally for a very long time.
Indeed.
We won't go into the numbers, but could you explain to people how you are responsible for turning me into the public rockabilly figure that I am?
First of all, I take no responsibility for anything that Ken ever does, ever. I guess because we had this crazy idea for this Big C Jamboree thing that we started a quarter century ago, and I did not want to be on stage in front of it, and you seemed ripe for the job, so we were like, hey, Ken will do it. We don't have to pay him. Cool.
I got a check from the Big C Jamboree once, and it had a couple of zeros on it, so I am not complaining.
As we evolved.
But for people who don't know, weren't here, don't remember, the Big C Jamboree, which started out as Rockabilly Night, started, again, like you said, over 25 years ago. What was the idea in the first place?
The idea for all you young kids out there was, it was a different landscape at the time. You know, there was no interwebs, there was no way to really, there was no community at large that was local or centralized for bands in that genre to get together, play for each other, play for other people, promote their shows, meet other musicians, dress up and have a good time. And the idea was we could have this kind of almost open mic format, but have a host band so that other people could come and say, oh, you know, I've seen their name in the reader.
Yes.
I've seen their name, they're playing in the reader at, you know, Cubby Bear, but I've never seen that band, and they could come and check out a band, get to know what they were, see if they liked them or not, and at the other hand, all those bands could then promote shows, and there was a lot of cross-pollination, and musicians could get together and start new bands. And
at that time, you were working at a club called Batteries Not Included.
Batteries Not Included. I was a child, actually, the pop. I was all material issue and shoes and Urge Overkill.
God bless.
I was running sound and booking bands for all the like pop stars and
at a club that hasn't existed
because it was the '80s and I was single and
ready to mingle.
And you know, and then it was like the rockabilly thing happened. And I was like, wow, these guys are hot, and they get to dress up, and they drink a lot.
I have always said, like you touched on, the rockabilly landscape in Chicago and probably across the country was very different then than it is now. That people, there were little pockets of people here, there were little pockets of people there. As my wife often says, even in Chicago's rockabilly scene back then, there were these rockabilly people over here that went around with hi-fi and the road burners and they wore leather jackets, and then there were these guys over here that went with this band and.
Right, and it was, I mean, it was, ultimately it was and still is to a large extent, the most alternative form of music, because you just didn't hear it on the radio. There wasn't, you know, it's not Austin, you don't have a continental club, you don't have a genre-specific club that everybody knows to go to find that music. And it had all these elements of what makes Chicago music great and better than Austin. You know, blues and jazz and all the things endemic to Chicago that made it better and and stronger. And so, yeah, we started, doing this thing to kind of have a forum, and we would go to Kinko's and print out a calendar every month of all the shows that were going on.
And then you also made some calendars along the way.
Yeah, we print a calendar every month, and
Yep. But then the next move from there, after the Big C Jamboree had started, you and Jill Obermeyer and her late husband Dan Obermeyer, you took the next step.
And my late husband Jimmy Sutton, you can say it. Ex-husband. I kid, I joke.
We kid because we love. But the four of you, along with your late dog Chester, started that magazine. You started Screamin' Magazine.
We did indeed.
How did that happen? Again, we're talking pre-internet here.
I feel like I'm saying indeed a lot. I've been watching a lot of Jeff Goldblum memes on TV, and I apologize for that. Well, again, it was a natural kind of outgrowth of what we were doing with the Big C Jamboree, which was there was no internet. There was no way for people to learn about new music and the lifestyle that we were really at this point heavily involved in. And so we decided that the magazine, and Jill is here tonight, God bless. We took this thing and decided, well, if you love the music, and the music should always be first and foremost, because that's what drives everything. But if you love the music, the chances are, and I think you wrote very eloquently about this in several issues of Screamin' in your editorials, that if you love the music, you can't help but be dragged into some of the lifestyle that goes along with it, whether that's clothes, whether that was cars, whether that was googie architecture, whether it was collectibles. There was always something that extended your kind of commitment to this fantastic driving beat beyond that into your everyday life and how you lived. And some people took it to an nth degree and still do and live very full into that lifestyle. But at this point, the idea was, there was no Google, so we wanted to put something out there where people could, learn about a lot of bands from the East Coast and the West Coast, and things like Hemsby in London, which were to us at that time unfathomable. They have a whole weekend festival devoted to this music? What are you, nuts? How do they support that?
And they bring back original artists.
Yeah,
and
these
bands.
guys are still alive. So the idea was to educate and expand and also kind of reach out into all those arteries: vintage clothing, collectibles, cars, radio, furniture, design, all the things that the music was rooted in the 50s that made it so great, all of that forward-thinking kind of post-war idealism, and all the other aspects of the lifestyle that went with it. And so that's what Screamin' accomplished, I think, to great end. We treated it very professionally, and we tried to do a really good job with making it not just a fanzine and not just a newsletter, but an actual magazine that spoke to what we all really, really loved.
As I wrote in my little columns in Screamin' throughout the years, the thing that I was always looking for was the why of it all. Why does a boomerang-shaped table that's painted aquamarine, why does that speak to my soul? Why do your cheaters, which are just totally spectacular.
I was afraid you'd make me read something, just in case.
Why does this mean something? Why does this cause my heart to flutter? And that's what you were trying to do with the magazine. I'm grateful that I got to be a part of that. And again, I've said this to you 1,000 times, I'm sure. I am so grateful to you for starting the Big C Jamboree, for starting Screamin' Magazine, for giving me a place to stand, to shout out this rockabilly message, to have a place to become who I am, and I will be repaying you for that for the rest of my life.
Well, wow, that's a lot of pressure.
Was tape rolling when I said that? Because I can't recreate those heartfelt emotions again. That was all BS.
No, and I have to say, on the other side of the coin, and all, be it for booze and just being lazy,
Sure.
I would love to take some of those old Screamin' magazines and put them online so people can read, because I think some of the heart of the articles and some of the editorials in particular that you wrote, and that Dan Obermeyer was a phenomenal wordsmith and writer about the culture, were really important, because it got to the heart of not just being in the moment and having a good time tonight, but really deciding that this is a community and that we have like-minded things, and what's important about that. I think you said it once, trying to be the mayor, or I think you said trying to be the mayor of Rockabilly, you missed the point altogether, and it's ironic that we call you the mayor now. But the idea is that it's this, it's a community of like-minded people that support and grow and educate and have some standards. Just because you're a Rockabilly band, that doesn't mean it's good. You want to encourage and further the growth of the culture and the lifestyle beyond just cosplay. And I'm cool with cosplay, and Rockabilly's the ultimate cosplay. I get it, but you want to go beyond just I dress up on weekends or I do this. You want it to be, something kind of integral, intuitive to the people who love what you love.
I remember hearing Jarko Jean, a guitar player from overseas, lives in Austin, Texas, and he said of Ronnie Dawson, he said that Ronnie said to him one time, echoing what you just said, Jarko, you have a choice. You can be a Rockabilly guitar player, or you can be a musician. You can choose whichever you want to be. Unfortunately, Jarko and most of these players that we know and artists and whatever, they've chosen to be musicians, not just, like you said, just playing Rockabilly music and you get a pass because you're playing Rockabilly.
Or not just Rockabilly. I mean, we were pretty, the other thing is that, if you love that, well, then you're probably going to like ska, you're probably going to like some psychobilly, you're going to like some surf, you're going to like some cool Latin jazz in the 50s, yes. You're going to like, old school blues, you're going to like country and western swing, and some of, the idea is that it's not exclusive, and that it's not genre specific. It's really more of a mixing pot of wonderful elements coming together to make your feet move, to make your feet tap and your body move, and that's the important part. And if you want to put on a dress, that's cool too. And if you want to drive an old car,
you hear that? If you want to put on a dress.
Hey, you don't talk to him. You talk to me. He's my people.
Sorry. Speaking of making people's feet move, you then took the next step. Hey, here's what I'm getting at, kids. When it comes to being the ultimate Rockabilly, roots rock, DIY person that you want to emulate, here's your role model right here.
Oh. Again, way too much pressure. I don't want to be anybody's role model.
Well, because the next step was that you and your ex-husband started a killer band.
Actually, I did the store first.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, well, that leads me to, if you want to see a part of Gabrielle's life, you started a vintage store.
I did, yeah. And that came as we were doing Screamin' and,
It was on Belmont Avenue, which was...
It was Antique Row at the time.
Right, exactly. It was great. That's all gone now. That whole neighborhood does not have the plethora of good antique stores that it used to. It still has.
Nobody does. It's all online now.
Well, this is true. But you started a store called Vintage Deluxe. Yeah. And why did you start the store?
Again, because I love the stuff and I couldn't stop buying it, but I couldn't keep it all in my house and certainly couldn't fit into all of it. So started selling and an extension of lifestyle. It was we did post World War to what I like to call JFK DOA Day. We did 40s to 63 was kind of our period, and it was an extension of the music we were listening to and the lifestyle we were leading.
If you would like to see the store in its prime, I always like to recommend something you can look at on YouTube. You want to go to a piece that was called Rockabilly Revival, Chapter 3, Part 1. This was shot by a very good friend of ours, Eric Burns, and his wife, Stephanie. He put together a full-length Rockabilly documentary, and there's a great segment, again, Chapter 3, Part 1, that's you in the store, and you speak so beautifully about what you were trying to do with the store, your love for all of this stuff. And it was beautifully done. So then the next move is, she does not stop. You and your ex-husband started a band that was just brutally good. A little thing called the Del Morocco's. What was the idea there? Because this was something bigger than just three guys beating on a wash tub.
It was, and I hate to give him credit for absolutely anything, but Jimmy had a lot to do with that, because essentially at that point I think we were about 10 or 15 years into the Big C, and I was like, I want to sing a song at the Big C. I can sing a song. Everybody gets to sing. I got to sit behind the counter. I want to sing a song.
Yeah.
I said, I'm going to learn 3 songs, and you're going to play, and it's going to be great. And we started.
That was a very good impersonation of James Ventrella.
It's like a ventriloquist act.
A ventriloquist act?
Ventriloquist! twist. Thank you, Cleveland. No, it started off as I just wanted to do a couple songs at the Big C because I wanted to be on the stage. At this point, I was like, why do we hire Ken? I want to be on the stage. And I learned a couple songs, and as we started learning the songs, Jimmy was like, this would be really good if we had a saxophone. And and then it kind of just evolved from there into like, wow, well, these are really good songs, and this is your good arrangements. Maybe we should do more with that if we're going to spend all this time to learn 3 songs, because I was an amateur at the time, and I needed a lot of rehearsal. And so it just evolved into then kind of what Jimmy's vision was for what he thought it should be, and the stuff that I wanted to just sing and that I liked, and doing something different that not a lot of people were doing. Again, everything goes in waves, and it goes from this swing thing, and then the country thing, and then the western. Everything kind of goes in. And we were kind of on that, girl group backup-y thing that then turned into, on a mass market level, the Amy Winehouse. Just like the trends, what we were doing, nobody in the rockabilly scene per se was doing at that level. So
it was a big full piece, almost like Ike and Tina Turner review. It was kind of like an Ike and Tina Turner review kind of thing, and it filled a stage, and it was fun to watch. And the album that you recorded, I forget the title of the album.
Blue Black Hair.
Blue Black Hair was a full album. I'm sure it's still available out there. Everything's available on
Oh my God, I could have brought carload. I would have given them away tonight. Still got a bunch.
The thing I loved about that record in retrospect was that it sounded like you were listening to a 45 on a turntable, and the 45 was just about to come off the turntable. There was just so much going on there that it was ready to just take off.
And that was the marriage with Alex Hall, who was in the band at the time, our drummer, and it was recorded at his studio, which was the precursor to the next chapter of my life in the rockabilly scene, and that was all his genius at his old studio. In his little apartment loft. So.
Well, nowadays you can still see Gabrielle Sutton on stage with a million good-looking guys in black suits and fezzes, a little thing we like to call the Bamalamas.
Bamalamas.
Man, they got a sound that can turn goat piss into gasoline. They really do. I'm quoting from the Blues Brothers for you psychos out there. How did you end up working with Chris and Tony Bryan and Bill and all of these guys?
I wish it was a more glamorous story, but...
somebody owed somebody money. And...
No, it was, honestly, I mean, just, again, being a part of the scene, and we do an annual event for the memory of Eric Hi-Fi and Jeff from Hi-Fi, called the Bring It Up High Festival, which we're doing in November, which I help out on. We actually have Deke and Crazy Joe coming for that. It'd be an awesome show. Y'all should come. It's for a good cause. And Eric was always a fixture on the scene. So they did that a couple years ago at the Cobra Lounge, and again, I was trying to muscle in. At that point, I've been emceeing an event in Austria, the Bombardment, because Ken has all the MC jobs in Chicago, so I had to go to Austria to get an MC job for a Rockabilly Festival.
How cool is that you get to go and do something in
it's so
Austria?
Awesome. So awesome. I make jokes about the Sound of Music. Nobody gets it. It's awesome. But they all speak English, but they're just like, yeah.
And don't you wear the dirndl?
I do.
The dirndl, it's not dirty. It's like a corset.
Yeah,
kind of.
It's a good time. But
man.
So anyway, I've been emceeing that. So I muscled my way into co-MC with you the Cobra Lounge, Bring It Up High Festival. The first year they did it at Cobra, and I got really drunk, like toasted beyond belief.
Drunk.
Dancing. I was sweaty. It was not pretty, and I got really drunk. And I used to have a vintage store, so I have all these fezzes at home. So I got really drunk. I went to the Bamalamas. I was like, you know what? I got fez, like a girl fez. I should so be in your band. And then like a year later, they called me.
That's how I got in the That's how I got in the Gin Pals Jesters. I went to the guys from the band. I said, I got a cowboy hat. And they said, you're in. And then I learned how to play guitar.
So we did the 45, and that worked out well. And now we're full on. We got a whole set and everything, whole show.
Well, just to top things off, and I asked you in advance if you would show this off. If you're going to be a rockabilly roots rock type, number one, you got to have a tattoo of one form or another. And if you're going to have a tattoo, you might as well have a really good tattoo. So can you show the young people out there this beautiful...
What makes you think I only got one really good tattoo?
That's true. We are on the internet. We can... XNXX, here we come. This...
Nobody under 30 is going to know what this is, but everyone looks at it and is like, oh my God, it's a pinup girl, is it you? Because it has black hair. But this is Rachel from Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner. Because, you know, rockabilly, cosplay, I'm a dork at heart.
Who was it that did your work?
Omar at Revolution Tattoo on Western Avenue.
Well,
He did a brilliant job. It's artwork by a Vietnamese girl named Quy Don, who does pop culture stuff in the style of Sailor Jerry, and it's
now
very happy with it.
You were not like a crazy teenager who went out and got a tattoo. You waited a while until it was right for you.
Funny story, my first tattoo was from the Denver Rockabilly Weekender. Y'all didn't even know they had a Denver Rockabilly Weekender back in the day. Wormtone Records, Kurt and Karen Olin, and it was one of the first, before Vegas actually even.
Yes.
And that was back in the day. They had a tattoo artist at the festival who would give tattoos, which I don't even think you're legally allowed to do anymore. And this cat was from LA, and he was like a big name, which I totally forgot.
Yeah, well.
And I was looking at him all weekend like, I'm gonna get a tattoo. And the festival came and went, and then he came to Chicago after the festival, and we took him around, and we showed him Chicago, and we showed him a really good time for 3 days, and he's like, you want a tattoo for showing me around? So I got my first tattoo in my kitchen from the guy from the Denver Rockabilly Weekend. Whose name I don't remember, but, you know, goes around, comes around, right?
Well, it's been, number one, it's an honor and a privilege just to be friends with you.
Back at you.
I admire the energy that you bring to Chicago's rockabilly scene, and I can't thank you enough for being on the show. Gabrielle Sutton, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Chicago Vintage Show. We're throwing it back. We're throwing it back to young Doug Friedman. Spin a record for us, brother.